Hi everyone. If you need a rig fast, Maya's HumanIK is the way to go. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to use this powerful tool to generate a full body rig for your characters with almost zero effort. Let's get started. The first step is to bring your character into the scene. Go to File Import, find your character file, select it, and click Import. In the outliner, you can see all the individual pieces that make up my character. For this example, I have the body and the two eyes, but don't worry. If your character has clothes, hair, teeth, or accessories, I'll show you how to connect those later. The process is exactly the same. If you don't see your outliner window, you can quickly open it by clicking this icon located on the left-hand toolbar. Now take a moment to check your character for any imperfections. Ideally, this should have been handled long ago, but it's crucial to verify it now. If your character isn't clean, if it has non-manifold geometry or other mesh issues we've covered in the past, the rigging process will be tedious or might not work at all. You want a character with clean topology and a manageable poly count. Don't neglect this step. A good rig always starts with a healthy mesh. Now it's time to prepare the scene. Go to Windows Settings / Preferences. Preferences. Under the Settings category, make sure the up axis is set to Y. This ensures the correct up direction for the entire scene. Also, verify that your working units are set to centimeters, then click Save. Next, double-check your character. It should be facing the front, +Z, centered on the grid, and at the correct scale. Tap the spacebar to jump into the 4-view layout, then move to the front view. To make our joints more visible later on, let's hide the grid by clicking the grid icon at the top of the viewport. Now let's open the HumanIK tool. Switch your workspace to Rigging in the top left drop-down menu. Then go to the HumanIK panel and click Create Skeleton. Now take a look at your outliner. You'll see a new object. This is a null, a transform group, that holds all the joints of your new rig. If you select this null, the entire skeleton highlights in the scene. Go ahead and click this icon to rename your character. Notice that all the joints now have the prefix of the name you just gave it. This naming convention is vital. It allows Maya and other software to recognize the joints correctly. Using general, clear names makes it much easier to retarget animations later on. Let's explore the skeleton. I'll hide the geometry for a moment by selecting it and pressing H. Notice the null, which looks like a crosshair, is placed exactly at the origin, 0, 0, 0. Do not move this null during the rigging process. In the HumanIK menu, you can set the parameters for this skeleton. Let's look at the Skeleton tab. Scale, keep the character scale at 1 for now. Spine, by default, it's set to 3, meaning the spine will have 3 joints. Neck, this is set to 1. Increasing these numbers adds more joints depending on the mobility your character needs. Then we have roll bones. These are extra bones used to handle twisting in the limbs. Depending on the complexity, some rigs use 3 or 4, but let's keep it simple and leave them at default for now. You can also adjust the fingers and toes, adding extra joints or blending points. I recommend exploring these values now to see all the options. But a quick warning, if you change these values after we start moving joints manually, the skeleton will reset or break its alignment, so decide on your bone count now. Let's continue with our rig. Bring your character back by selecting it in the outliner and pressing H to unhide it. Switch back to the front view. To make this easier, click the X-ray joints icon at the top of the viewport. This allows you to see the bones through the mesh. Now here is a professional tip for moving joints. Usually, if you select a bone and press W to move it, the entire chain below it moves as well. But if you want to move a single joint without affecting the rest of the hierarchy, select the joint, press W, and then D. This enters the Edit Pivot mode, allowing you to position bones individually. To return to normal mode, just press W or Q again. Now, let's go step by step. Follow my lead. Hips. Select the hip bone and move it to the pelvis area. Legs. Position the left upper leg right at the intersection where the hip meets the leg. Then move the left knee and left foot into place. Note, if your joints are too big or too small, go to Display Animation. Joint size to adjust them. Continue with the spine. Adjust the clavicle, shoulder, elbow, and wrist. For better precision, enable wireframe on shaded mode to see the topology. Finally, align the neck and head joints. Crucial note. Notice that I am only moving the joints, not rotating them. Avoid rotating joints at this stage. Also, we are only working on the left side. Why? Because we can simply click the mirror icon in the HumanIK menu to instantly match the other side. This is why working with a symmetrical character makes your workflow so much faster. Troubleshooting. If the mirror tool doesn't align perfectly, it's likely because you forgot to set your working units to centimeters. Go back and check those settings if things look off. Now, let's continue aligning the skeleton. We're not finished just yet. Jump to the side view and enable X-ray so you can see the joints through the mesh. Let's adjust the left toe base. It should be placed right where the toes begin to bend. Next, move the knee joint slightly forward. This is a crucial step because it helps the software understand the preferred angle, basically telling the rig which direction the knee should naturally bend. I also like to adjust the neck and head joints here, positioning the torso joints to follow the silhouette of the character for better performance. Now, let's jump to the top view. Again, enable X-ray and hide the grid. If you prefer, you can work in wireframe mode for even better precision. Focus on the clavicles, shoulder, elbow, and wrist. Just like we did with the knee, move the elbow slightly back to set its preferred bending angle. Now for the fingers. Each finger chain needs to be aligned perfectly in the middle of the geometry. Each finger has a root joint, numbered 1, followed by 3 phalanges. Distribute them accordingly. Remember, use only the Move tool, no rotations. This is exactly why I was so insistent on modeling your character in a straight T-pose. If the body parts are already bent in the mesh, this process becomes tedious and, in some cases, completely impractical. For the final adjustments, jump back to the perspective view. Make sure every finger is centered. I personally like to give a very slight preferred angle to the finger joints here as well, to ensure they curl naturally when animated. We have finished the alignment. Double-check that every joint is in the right location, then go to the HumanIK menu and click the mirror icon. And just like that, done. Now you can see the full body joint structure perfectly aligned with your character. However, if you're paying close attention, you'll notice we don't have any joints for the face. You might be wondering, how are we going to animate expressions? While there are many techniques for facial animation, which we will cover in a future video, for this exercise, we are going to focus specifically on the eyes. We'll create custom joints to control eye movement. First, make sure you are still in rigging mode. Now, let's create the joints manually. Go to the top menu bar, navigate to the skeleton menu, and select the Create Joints tool. Your cursor will change to a crosshair indicating that you're ready to start placing joints in the scene. To make placement easier, we'll start on the grid. Zoom in, hold X to snap to the grid, and left-click. You'll see a new joint appear in the scene and the outliner. Let's name this joint head_root_JNT. Adding that JNT suffix is the professional way to keep your outliner organized. Now press W and move the joint inside the character's head, just like the example. With the new joint selected, press Ctrl+D to duplicate it. In the outliner, you'll see a new joint appear with a 1 at the end of the name. Let's go ahead and rename that to R_I_JNT. Move this joint to the center of the character's right eye. Precision is key here. This joint acts as the pivot point for the eye's rotation, so it needs to be exactly in the center of the eyeball. I recommend jumping between the front view and side view, and even hiding the body mesh to make sure the placement is perfect. You can align the joints with more precision. Hold the V key while moving the joint to use point snapping, which snaps the joint directly to the mesh vertices. Now that the joints are positioned, let's organize the hierarchy. In the outliner, middle mouse drag the R_I_JNT and drop it onto the head_root_joint. After that, if you click the plus icon next to the head root, you'll see the eye is now a child in that chain. To create the other side, select the right eye joint and go to Skeleton Mirror Joints. In the settings, set the mirror across plane to YZ. Under the replacement section, type R_ in the search for field and L_ in the replace with field. This ensures our new joint is named correctly. Hit apply and you'll see the L_I_JNT appear perfectly on the opposite side. Now, we need to connect our eye setup to the main body skeleton. While you could drag and drop again, I'll show you a shortcut. Select the head_root, then hold Shift and select the character's main head joint. Order is very important here. Select the child first, then the parent. Press P to parent them. You will now see a bone connection in the viewport, represented by this conical shape. Check your viewport to ensure the cone is pointing in the right direction, as shown in my example. Now, let's bring the character back. Select your mesh in the outliner and press H to unhide it. To bind the character, first select the hip joint, then hold Shift, and select the body and the eye meshes. Go to Skin, Bind Skin, and open the option box. Copy these settings for the best results. Set Bind to the joint hierarchy. Set bind method to heat map. Set skinning method to weight blended. And weight distribution to neighbors. I recommend exploring these settings and checking the documentation to understand this tool better. Click Apply. You will see the joints change color, meaning the mesh is now successfully connected to the skeleton. Next, close your extra tabs and keep the HumanIK window open. Click the lock icon to finalize your character definition. In the Definition tab, all turns green. That means your character is ready. If you see yellow, it is just a warning about joint alignment, as this tool prefers a straight T-pose. If it shows a red error, you will need to adjust your joint positions before you can proceed. Finally, click the Create Control Rig icon. Just like that, we have professional controls. The circles are the IK controls. Move them to see the character react. Note that IK controls primarily handle translation, not rotation. The yellow skeleton lines represent your FK controls. Check that the source menu now shows Control Rig. If you look at your outliner, you will see a new object called character_control reference. This is the list of all the controls in our scene. But what happens if the joint alignment is not correct? How do we fix it? First, let's delete the controls. Click the blue HumanIK icon, go to Edit Control Rig, and select Delete Control Rig. You will see in the outliner that the control list is gone, the source now shows none, and the Control tab has turned to gray. If your joints have disappeared from view, simply click the skeleton torso icon to toggle their visibility back on. Now, select all the character parts, go to the Skin menu, and click Unbind Skin. This disconnects your character mesh from the joints. You will notice the joints are no longer colored, and if you move the skeleton, the mesh does not follow. Now you can freely readjust your joint positions. Once you are happy with the new positions, select the hip bone and all the parts of your character again. Go to Skin, Bind Skin, and make sure your previous settings are still there. With the character connected again, open the Definition tab and click Create Control Rig. Sometimes when you try to select your controls, you might accidentally select the mesh instead. We have a perfect fix for that. Look for the Selection Filter section. If it is not visible, look for the tiny right-pointing arrow and click it to unfold the menu. You will see several blue icons. Find the mesh icon and untick it. Now, in the viewport, you can select your controls easily without ever clicking the mesh by mistake. This is a perfect setup for the animation process. We now have full body control, but you may notice we do not have eye controls yet. I will show you how to create a full rig and controls for the face in a separate video, as that process is a bit more detailed. Another powerful feature of the HumanIK tool is the ability to connect existing animations to our character. Let me show you how. First, I am going to remove my current controls just to keep the scene clean for this demonstration. This is optional. You can actually keep your controls and toggle between them and other animations later. Now, let's import a compatible animation. Go to Window, Content Browser, and navigate to Animation, then Motion Capture, and finally FBX. Choose an animation. In my case, I will double-click on the flip animation to bring it into the scene. You can now see a new skeleton in the outliner in the viewport. If you select it, you will notice red keys on the timeline, meaning it has its own motion data. Let's adjust our timeline to match this new animation. Look at the last frame number of the clip and update your timeline end frame here. Press play, and you will see the skeleton performing the flip in a loop. In this case, the animation is ready to connect because it already has a character definition created. If you bring in motion from an external source, you would need to define that skeleton first, so Maya understands which bone is which. I will cover how to define external animations in a separate video. To connect the motion, go to the Source menu in the HumanIK window and select the name of the imported animation. For me, that is the flip. Press play and your character will now perfectly copy the movement of that skeleton. To switch back to your manual controls, simply change the source to none, go to the Definition tab, and create the rig again. You have now learned the core capabilities of the HumanIK tool, including how to toggle between manual controls and imported animations. This gives you many powerful options for moving your characters. I am preparing more videos on how to use the control rig in more depth, how to retarget external animations, how to modify existing motion, and how to bake and export your animations for use them again or in other software. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment if you have any questions or a specific tutorial request. See you in the next video.